it's about Ben.
It's about Ben.
You said that was your first real heartbreak.
It was my first big heartbreak. Like I had been heartbroken like when I was like 13 years old, my first puppy love type thing.
Yeah.
And I had, you know, breakups and things like that, but I never felt heartbroken until we called off that wedding. You know what I mean? It was really devastating to me.
I'm so excited.
Very exciting. It's so exciting.
It is. Oh my God. Can't even stand it. Oh my God.
I already feel like it's gonna be emotional, and I'm like, ah!
Here we go.
Because I can feel the love. It feels so good. Thank you guys for coming. Thank you.
By the way, this isn't
I love
she?
you guys. I love you. I know.
Can I ask a question before we even
Yeah,
start?
yeah.
I mean, your
you
book
can
is-
ask me any question you want tonight.
Yes.
How's that?
Oh, thank you. Okay.
Okay.
So when you do feel what this feels like in this room, which is people are rooting for you, they're on your side, they're with you. How does that determine how you're feeling? Like I can already see you getting emotional and we're just sitting here, we haven't even started.
Yeah, you know, it's never lost on me. I don't ever take my position or my life or my fans or any type of love for granted. I feel like it's just such a special thing, you know what I mean? And so I'm always moved by it. It always moves me, it always overtakes me, it never gets old.
Well, what's interesting is, you guys, this book, you're very revealing in this book, and you could have taken your heartache, your pain, all of it, put it deep in your pockets, and just been on your way. You would have been the girl on stage, the girl who sings, the girl who we all watch, but instead, you did something risky.
Yeah.
You decided to reveal a painful part of your life. Why did you decide to do that?
I don't know why I do these things. It's just not me. I am a risk taker. I am somebody who is not afraid to talk about things and not afraid to show that I'm human. I know that, listen, I love show business and I love being an actress and a singer and a performer. And I know that my job is to get out there and entertain and to make people dance and smile and have a good time. That's what I do. And so I always try to put my best foot forward and do what I have to do. I know, look at the
Max and Emmy.
Yes.
Oh my God.
And I try to do my best by them, you know what I mean? So I'm always, but at the end of the day, this book didn't start out to be what it turned out to be.
What did it
and so it started out to be a kind of a fan book of the year that I went on my first world tour. It's very unusual that an artist who has, you know, 9, 10 albums has never gone on a world tour. So we thought, wow, this is the first world tour. Let's document it. Let's take pictures. Let's, you know, keep a little diary, and we'll put a book together for the fans at the end of the whole thing. And it just turned into something else, because as I put that show together for the first time, as I looked at my body of work of music, saw how autobiographical it was, remembered each moment of when those songs were being recorded, why I chose certain songs, why I wrote certain songs, I was like, it was like holding up a mirror to myself for the first time. And that, coupled with the fact that I had just gone through, you know, probably the most devastating thing that has ever happened, which was the breakup of my family, I was in a place to question, to want to know, like, what have I been doing all this time? How did this happen? Why am I here right now? And now I'm trying to put together this show, and I'm trying to show people who I am as a person, as an artist. What is my message? What am I doing? And it just became one of those things that just happened, and the book happened because of that.
Well, the title's True Love.
Yes.
When I saw that, I loved the title, and I thought to myself, I wonder how many times Jen's been in love.
A couple.
A couple?
A couple.
Yeah.
Yeah, a couple. It's funny, I never said this, but the name of the book was originally going to be called Dance Again.
Dance Again.
Yes, that was the first thing when we first started, because it was supposed to be about the tour. And then as we're writing the book, we're like, that's not the name of this book. What is it? This book is something else, and then it became True Love.
Well, True Love is a great title, and I have to say, when you guys start reading the book, I've read it, and I read through it a couple of times because I really loved it. But
Thank you.
when you open it up, one of the very first sections is called Rock Bottom.
Yeah.
It doesn't start with, I was from the Bronx and my family. It starts off with rock bottom, and it's one of those things that grabs you in a way, and it talks about how your marriage dissolved.
Yeah.
Hard way to start a book, isn't it, a little?
A hard way to start the morning that day. It was not a fun day.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it was what was the impetus for me to decide to go on the tour in the weirdest way, because I needed something. I needed a new dream. I needed something to build, because everything had fallen apart.
Yeah.
And so I had to start there, because from there we were going to build.
So you do talk about there was one day in particular when you knew that your marriage was kind of over.
Right.
And you were with your mom and you were with Ben.
Right.
Describe the moment, because I think we all know when one of our relationships is over, but what
Well, we don't want to, well, this is what we do, right? We like kind of deny it for a long time.
Yeah.
We're just like, this is not happening.
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to get through this part. It's going to be better. And then, you know, slowly but surely, you just can't suppress that feeling forever. And things happened, and it was leading up to it. And then I was just, like I said, right in the book, I was in the desert one day doing a L'Oreal shoot. And my mom just happened to be visiting, thank God. You know, things, you know, maybe it wasn't such an accident. And Benny was there on the shoot. And I just started having all of these crazy thoughts and fearful, you know, like afraid, like anxiety. And it was just it coming to the surface.
Yeah.
Like I couldn't hold it down anymore. And there I was about to go on set, and I was just like, something's happening. I don't know what's happening. And it was just an anxiety attack of some sort, or a nervous moment. And I was like, I just feel like I'm going crazy. I don't know what's happening. Help me, you know? And my mom was like, what's wrong? Are you scaring me? I was like, no, I don't know. And I was like, and I started talking, and all of a sudden I said, I don't think I can be with Mark anymore. And she was like, I think they all knew it was coming, but they didn't know. And Benny was like, okay. And I just burst into tears. That was the sentence that needed to come out. You know what I mean? Like I was talking all this stuff, but then when that sentence came out.
Did you feel relief then, finally?
Well, I started crying. So that, you know, that's kind of a release, but it didn't feel great. It was the beginning of the end, and the beginning of a very difficult time.
What did you lose that day?
I lost that dream. You know, believe it or not, and I know Mark, you know, now it's, you know, everybody knows he's getting engaged, he's getting married, and I'm so happy for him. And so it's hard, you know, to bring up all this stuff feels like, why are we talking about this? Because it is in the past. But the truth is we had a family, and we did plan on being together for 40 or 50 years. He used to talk about that all the time. And that was our goal. So that day I had to give up that dream. And I think that was the hardest part of it.
Wow. You go on to a chapter called Big Hollywood.
Yes.
And that was such a big part of your life, because that's how we see you.
Right.
We see you as dancer, singer, and all those wonderful things. And the idea that someone who has it all together, like you appear to have, it was so hard for us to believe that, wait, you had insecurities, you didn't feel worthy.
Right.
Yeah, tell us about that.
It's normal. Like, you know, you don't, sometimes when you see people on a screen or on a stage, you don't think of them as regular people. I know I do it to the people I watch, you know what I mean? So I get it. But the truth is we are human beings, and we're going and struggling. Everybody's struggling on some level at some point in their life. And when I started putting the tour together, I knew that the first thing, when I first came out, I wanted it to feel like, oh, the movie star has arrived. You know, like, give them what they'd been waiting to see. You know, some people have been waiting. I went all over the world now, and you know, I got to talk with fans, and I got to see them and say, we've been waiting for you to tour for 14 years. I was like, I'm so sorry. I was busy. You know what I mean? And, you know, in my mind, I was like, this is the first time they're going to see me live like this on my world tour, where I get to do my own show. It's my point of view. And so I didn't want to disappoint. I wanted that opening to be like, you know, an old, you know, Broadway Hollywood musical with glamorous star at the center of it and guys in top hats. I just wanted it to be that. But sometimes what's going on behind the scenes is something very different, but that's the show.
Did you wonder, because you were planning this tour when your marriage was falling apart, did you think, am I running away from something?
No, it was actually over by the time I started doing the tour. It was months after Mark and I had broke up that I called Benny. Actually, we broke up probably around May or June, I remember, and got separated. And then in December, actually right after New Year's,
you decided
I
to do
called Benny and I said, I think we need to tour. You know, I was on Twitter, Instagram, you know, at that time. I think it was Twitter. And I was just, you know, fans were like, when are you going to tour? When are you going to tour? You know, and I was like, my fans want me to tour. I'm going to tour. And he was like, I was like, can we go on a tour? And he's like, yes, we can go on a tour. I've been waiting for you to get there. And I'm like, I'm ready. Let's do it. And that's kind of how it happened. And I think it came out of the ashes of, like I said, needing something new to focus on instead of the pain and the hurt. It was more dull by then, but still very fresh.
And in this act, in this chapter, you do talk a lot about love. You write so many songs about love.
Oh, Lord.
How many?
All of them.
All of them. Love. Yeah.
I know some people wite about a party or a happy, you know, not
no,
me.
Love,
you know,
love.
about politics and social issues.
No, thank you.
It's like, let's talk about love again. Can we just talk about this one more time? Yeah, I love singing about love. You know, to me, those little things, it's the thing that I've been trying, I guess, to figure out for a long time. Yeah. And with this book and with this time and with this journey, I got to figure out a small component of it. What I felt was the first step in actually really healing myself from many years of different disappointments in relationships and things like that.
You categorize your relationship in different ways. I thought this was an interesting quote. You said, you were always looking for another person to be with me. It wasn't that I preferred to be with someone else. Problem was, I hated not to be.
I did. Since I was little, you have to, I grew up in the Bronx, and I grew up, yes. And you know, me and my sisters shared a bed. I was always with people. You know, we had a big family, and my family,
I love that
was my kitchen in the Bronx, and me and my sisters slept together until we were in high school. It was crazy. Like, I was always like right up on each other. You know what I mean? And so when I moved away and I started traveling the world, I felt so alone.
Yeah.
I felt so alone, but I was happy to be like, I was brave in the sense like I was forging ahead and I was gonna go after my dream, like that was the thing. But I was still like looking for that family, looking for that love, looking for someone to be there with me. And yeah, I didn't like it at all.
And you talk about your first real heartbreak.
Right.
And you don't talk about it in depth at all.
No.
But you do bring
No,
up.
I wrote one line.
One
and this
line.
is all over the press.
Right.
I was like, I should have never wrote the damn line.
It's about Ben.
It's about Ben.
You said that was your first real heartbreak.
It was my first big heartbreak. Like, I had been heartbroken like when I was like 13 years old, my first puppy love type thing.
Yeah.
And I had, you know, breakups and things like that, but I never felt heartbroken until we called off that wedding. You know what I mean? It was really devastating to me. I don't know, maybe because it was so public, and I really felt like, you know, I had found somebody great, and he had found somebody great, and we thought we could make it work, and it was like outside things really played into that relationship in a way that I could have never expected. I was at the height kind of like the J-Lo days, and the fame was really big at that moment, and it was just a hard situation, and it was a devastating breakup.
Right, and one thing that you say you do is that after a breakup, you quickly meet someone else. You say that sometimes some people turn to drugs or drinking. You don't even do any of that stuff.
No. People go out and party and do all that stuff. No, not me.
What do you do?
Well, I feel like we try to anesthetize ourselves because we're in so much pain, right? So we try to find something that eases the pain. And I always found comfort in another person, you know what I mean? And so I would just, that somebody would show up, and I'd be like, oh, this is cool.
Well, You were so funny. Well, Mark showed
But you know what I mean. It's
Yes.
more than that, but
Of
you know
course.
what I mean.
Well, Mark showed up.
Mark
showed up.
But
here's
Mark had been in my life for a while.
And I didn't know this, but there's a quote in there. It says in 1998 when you first met that Mark said to you, the first time he met you, one day you're going to be my wife.
Yeah, he said, you're my wife and you don't even know it. One day you're my wife. I was like, okay. I was so like, that's a heavy duty pickup line. Like that's, you know what I mean? I met him backstage at a play and stuff. And I was with my dad. I was like, okay.
So how did you get reconnected with him, and why did that feel like the right thing at that time?
We got reconnected a few months, again, Ben and I were already on the rocks and breaking up, and he and I got together to do a song together for a movie I was doing. And, you know, we reconnected right away, and he made no, you know, it wasn't a secret that he still had feelings for me, and he let me know. And so when everything did fall apart, like he was the friend I had already been talking to him. I talked to him over the years all the time. And so when that happened, we just picked right back up where we had left off.
And the fans wanted it.
It's true.
Right? The fans wanted
they
you
did.
guys together.
They liked us together, I think, you know, as much as they can like anybody together, whatever, you know what I mean? It's like whatever. But, you know, as much, it's not important to your lives, and I get that, you know what I mean? But as much as people like a couple, they did like us together.
Why do you think they did?
I don't know, maybe because we had similar backgrounds and we seemed like we matched in a way. You know, you're like, oh, they match good.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know.
Now, is it weird because when the public is in on your relationship, it must accelerate it because you start dating and people say you're getting married and you start, you know, like they want to push you along.
Yeah, but that doesn't matter to me. I push myself along. I always did. That was one of my things. It was like I was always rushing, and I talk about that in the book. I'm a runner. I've always been a runner, you know, since I was little, and I'm always running. Like I just don't slow down, and that's great for professional life. You know what I mean? It keeps me focused, and I'm always overachieving and stuff like that, but in relationships, it's not great. You must take your time. You must know. You know what I mean? You have to be slow with things. But that's something I'm just learning. Thank you. I clap for myself. You know what I mean? Because it's like, good job, okay, you finally got it. Yeah, that's something that, again, I always say I'm a work in progress here. This was the first step in a journey towards something that I needed to learn.
Yeah. When you're in a relationship, and you want it to work because you want things to work. So I mean,
well, some more than others.
Some more than others. So if you're an optimist, like there are certain people who are in relationships and they say, oh, here's what's wrong with him. He's this, he's that. If you're an optimist, you'll look and you'll say, this is great. I love this part.
Oh yeah, you ignore all the bad stuff.
You forget the other stuff.
You know about that. I know about that. Yeah.
It's hard, but then you end up doing that. But the other thing too is when you were hurting after Ben, you were kind of on your knees a little bit, and Mark stepped in. One time, I was married at one time, and we had a breakup in our relationship, and I still remember this. I was sitting in the laundromat on the floor, watching my clothes go around. And a police officer walked in, and he said, "Are you okay?" And I said, "No, I am not okay." And I was dating my then husband at the time, but he rescued me. I'll never forget it. And I started dating him, and I dated him.
The cop?
The cop! Yes!
I love it. Yes. Help me. You see what I'm saying?
Yes. Because he
it's not
rescued
just me. Okay?
But
I'm just out here on Broadway, you know, talking about it. Go ahead.
But when he saves you, and then suddenly you get stronger. And then the guy who's a rescuer is wondering how you changed. You know, now I'm whole because now I've gotten over the pain, and now he's looking at me and he wants to continue saving me, and that's not who I am
I'm done.
anymore.
Right.
Right. It's over.
Right.
So sometimes you have to meet. You talk about meeting someone when you're healthy and whole.
But that's
and
the
full.
key. You have to you have to heal on your own, and nobody can do that for you. And that's again something that I've been learning and just learning and on the journey of. But you have to be healthy and whole on your own first before you can allow somebody to add to that happiness. You should be happy all by yourself. You should have a great life and be full. And, you know what I mean? And not to feel like you're missing something, you know? And for so long I thought, and I think from when we're little girls sometimes, and little boys, we're taught that there's a fairy tale that's supposed to happen. You're supposed to come in and rescue the girl, and we're gonna be rescued, and we're gonna live happily ever after, and it's gonna be awesome. But that's not how it goes. And so we do this, and it's just...
But here's what I love about you. There are certain people who after heartache get bitter and hard. And you seem like you're open,
I refuse to let heartache or pain it's an inevitable part of life. To allow it to dim, you know, my soul or how I feel about life or how amazing it can be. I remember when Mark and I got divorced, I was like, I don't want to just get through this divorce. I just don't want to survive it. I want to come out better. I want to come out the other side and be like, okay, I'm a better person. You know what I mean? I lived through it. I survived it, but I learned so much. I did, you know, and that's what happened. I put it in my mind, and I do feel that way. I do feel like, you know, and it's evidence is in the book, too.
Well, I love the song that you've chose, Dance Again, which was going to be the title. That's so meaningful on so many levels for you, isn't it?
Absolutely, absolutely. Dance Again was a song in my life, and I've been so lucky in my career at different times that the right song comes to me at the right time always. And Dance Again was no different than that. It was Enrique Iglesias' song. He owned it. It was his. He was talking about maybe doing a duet with me, and I was like, Benny, how do we get this song? I was like, this is my song. I need to sing this song. I need to dance again. I want to love. I want to dance again. You know, and he was like, okay, well, let me see what I could do. And he did what he could. And Enrique was like, okay, if she wants to record it, she can. You know, if she feels that, you know, he's an artist as well. He understands that feeling. And I was so passionate about it. And he let me do it. And it was funny because we wound up going on tour together in the States for that tour, for the Dance Again tour. It became a whole movement. It became a whole moment in my life, which was about rebuilding after, you know, something falls apart. And I remember when we did the video, I was sitting there and I was like, I want to put something on the beginning of the video. I want to put something, you know, something like, you'll live, you'll love, and you will dance again. It will. And then he was like, put that on the front of the video. And I was like, okay. So we put that on the front of the video, and it became the mantra, and it became the greatest hits album, and it became so many things. It became the tour, and it became this book.
Did you feel when you connect with an audience, because I know you're connecting with one right here.
Yes.
It must be such a great feeling to know that there are women nodding their head when you talk about heartache, when you talk about pain, because I can feel it and see it. That's got to feel like you know you're really making a real connection with people.
Well, that's what it's all about. I think artists, that's all we want to do. All we want to do is what I feel my responsibility is to share my experiences and the things I learned through my art. And when you do that in the right way, when you can be, and it's scary, honest and vulnerable, and make yourself really vulnerable, something real happens. Because they know you're not faking it. They know that you feel the things that you're singing or saying or even dancing, you know, acting, all of it. And that's when, you know, people say entertainment, oh, it's not, you know, the cure for cancer. But it does help your life. It does. Music heals you, and it helps your life. And I feel like, again, it's my responsibility to do that as an artist. I've been blessed in many, many ways with talent and with the ideas in my mind. You know, I know that comes from God, you know, and so it's my responsibility to share that as much as I can in the best way that I can.
How important is your faith to you?
Oh, God. Well, you know what I did the other morning, right? When I was at their show. I was there with Kathy Lee and Hoda, and she had and I was nervous, I'm going to admit to you. I was nervous about doing the press for the book, and the first show I went to was their show that morning. Thank God.
We took care of you.
Because they're my friends. And I know they're going to be nice to me. But it just worked out that way. It wasn't planned that way. And when I walk in, you know, and the night before I didn't sleep much, and I was like, okay, You know, I hope everybody receives this book in the way that it's intended, with all the good intentions of actually just wanting to share this story, and hopefully maybe it helps somebody, you know, or they can learn something. I would have wanted to learn this when I was in my 20s, you know. And I walk in, and Kathy Lee has a bracelet on that says faith.
Faith.
And I look at it, and I go, wow. I felt like God was talking to me. I don't know. I was like, it was like, where's your faith? Like, have faith. Come on. You know, have faith in yourself, have faith in what you've done, have faith in your heart right now and what you're doing. And I looked at the bracelet, and I was like, wow, that's a great bracelet. And she takes it off and gives it to me.
Yes,
and I was
she
like,
did.
oh, no, I don't want the bracelet. And she's, no, she wouldn't take it back.
No, she wouldn't.
She said, take it. Like, again, I felt it was God going, no. This is what you need to do.
This
is what you need right now.
That's
I didn't say anything to you guys then, but I put it on and I wore it for the next couple of days. And it was just, it was one of those things. And I really do believe that, you know, God guides all of us if we let him. He's talking to us, he's guiding us, he's showing us. You just have to let go. You just have to let go and let God and know that everything's going to turn out all right. It will. It will. But you have to have the faith.
Have faith.
You have to have the faith first.
One of the great blessings in your life are your two beautiful, beautiful children.
My biggest blessing.
And when you were, there's a section about the Bronx, and you talking to your dad, and there's one point you say to your father, I'm not sure if this is meant for me to have children. This is before you got pregnant.
This is me and Mark were married about 3 years.
Yeah, you were nervous about it, but your dad had a way of putting you at ease, didn't he?
Yeah, I was getting up there in my age, and most people have their babies like late 20s, early 30s, and I was 37 at the time. 37, yeah, I was just about 37, and I said, you know, Daddy, me and Mark have been together for 3 years. Things are good because we had a rocky start. You know, and I was like, things are good, and we're in a good place, and I just don't get pregnant. I don't know what it is. And he's like, I said, maybe that's not what my life is about. Maybe my life is about other things, is what I said. Maybe it's about my career. Maybe it's about the things I'm supposed to create and do. And he said, very matter-of-factly, my daddy says to me, well, why can't you have both? And I said, it was like a light bulb went off in my head. Like I never considered that because I was blessed in one area, that I could be blessed in the other. Like I didn't deserve it or something.
Wow.
And again, that's a lack of self-love and of knowing what you deserve, that we deserve everything. And literally a month later, I got pregnant. A month later, that next month I was pregnant, and I couldn't believe it, and then I was having twins.
How did those two little babies change you?
Everything.
Everything.
They change everything. Every day they change everything. You know, well, first, the most profound thing is they change your perspective on the world, life. You know, they make you look at it in a different way. And it's because of the love that you feel for them. You feel a love that you've never felt before for another human being. Yeah. And it's so pure and unconditional that it made me start re-examining everything in my life. And if it wasn't for them, that wouldn't have happened, you know?
And you say, if you guys open the very first page of your book when you're done, but you dedicate the book to your two kids, Max and Emmy, and you said, they saved me. Yeah. And I remembered thinking that was such a strong statement. Yeah. That those kids saved you.
They did. They do every day. It's so funny because we were, I was getting ready to go see you the other morning. Yes. And the kids were up. And Max comes running into the room and he's like, Mommy! He was like, the reporter was just talking about us on TV, about me, you and Emmy. And I said, what did he say? He goes, he said we saved you. And I was like, you did! And he was like, whatever, back to Minecraft. And, but it's true, and it's so funny. And I want them to know that. I want them to know how incredible their impact has been on me. And I hope when they read the book when they're older, although Max could read the whole book right now, that they get that they get that love and loving yourself is something that they taught me and that I in turn now get to teach them.
I can't, that was great, beautiful. I can only imagine knowing how much you love your kids and knowing how much you wanted your family unit to stay together, that probably one of the hardest conversations you've ever had to have was...
Well, they're starting to ask more questions now because they were 3 years old when we broke up.
What did you say even to a 3-year-old? How do you have that
You don't
conversation?
say anything really to a 3-year-old because they don't really understand anything's happening right then. And then I remember, like, maybe after Mark wasn't in the house for about 8 months, Max saying something because my dad came over. And that was so painful. It was the first time it was broached. And Max is very intuitive and very bright. Both of them are. And he said, and my daddy was there, and I said, Daddy, said something to my dad, and he goes, that's your daddy? Like he was putting together, that's his grandfather, that's my daddy. No, he was little. And I go, yeah, that's my daddy. And he goes, my daddy left me. And I wanted to kill myself. I was like...
What did you say?
I said, no, baby, your daddy didn't leave you. I said, you know how my daddy goes home? Your daddy goes home too. And then he comes... you know, I was just trying to save the moment. You know, you're just scrambling at that point. You know, what do you say to a 3-year-old, you know? And it's just so hard, and it's things like that. And I think our main responsibility and what Mark and I talk about a lot is just letting them know how much we love them, how much we love them, how much they are loved, that they have not been abandoned in any way, because I think that's the feelings that kids deal with divorce and stuff like that. They feel like they're abandoned. They feel like the other parent doesn't love them. They even will blame you for not being with them. All kinds of things happen. And I just always try to just reinforce the love, the love, the love, because I know that will make them strong.
Now, what kind of a parent are you? Are you like, do you discipline your kids? Like, how does it, who's the tough one?
Yeah, I have to, because I'm the only one.
Yeah.
So that sucks. I hate that part. Because I'm a lover.
Yeah.
I'm a lover. I like to love them up. I'm always hugging them and kissing. You know, you see, there's tons of pictures where we're always kissing and hugging and I always have them around me. But now, you know, they start challenging you, and I'm the one who has to do it. I have to put them in line. And it's, you know, you see yourself being your own mother, and you're like, oh, God, what am I, you know, why am I doing this? I always said I wouldn't be this mom.
Right.
But you are, and you do, and it works, which is weird. And then, you know, but you try to, you know, do it in the best way that you can. Right. Having learned from being raised, too. You know, you take all of it, and you try to do your best.
Your parents were hardworking.
Yes.
I mean, they laid down the work ethic for you. That's what kind of keeps you going.
Absolutely. Okay. Absolutely. I mean, they both worked hard. My mom would stay at home for the first maybe 10 years, and then she started doing her own businesses, very entrepreneurial. My dad, you know, and she worked at our school as well. My dad worked nights. It was, you know, I always saw them working hard. I definitely got my work ethic from them, and all the love that I needed as well.
There's an act called Funky Love.
Yes.
I like the name of that one. And you talk about some of your relationships, which we've touched on. One thing someone asked me once, and it struck me, so I'll ask you the same question. They said, if you were to line up the 4 or 5 men or whoever that you've really loved in your life, and you were to ask each of them, why didn't the relationship work?
Ask them?
Ask them. Okay? Now, what would they... Wait.
Would they even have an answer? I mean, come on.
What would they all say that's the same?
Oh, the same?
What would be the answer that they would all say? What's the similar answer each person would say about why the relationship with you did not work out?
I would probably have to say...
Because you're fierce.
I'm too much. That's what they would say. They would say she was so much. She was so fierce. No, I think they would say, and again, the challenges in who I am and who I was meant to be and meant to do, there's a lot of people in my life. Yeah. And that's hard. You know, there's people in the house, there's people always around, there's hair and makeup, there's this. It's a lot, I think, for someone to deal with. Forget about all the outside stuff of being judged and being under scrutiny in a relationship. All that stuff is difficult too. But and I guess that adds into, kind of goes in the same category, but I think they would say that was a big part of their discomfort if there was any.
Do you still believe in the fairy tale?
I do, but I believe in it in a different way.
Okay.
You know what I mean? I feel like you have to be, it has to be in the right way. Somebody has to love you in the right way. I believe that in love, I believe that it heals. I believe that you can find someone and be compatible and live your life with them. I still believe in all that. I just feel like you need to be whole first. And I think I wasn't. And I think that's what I'm working on.
Did you go to therapy? Did that help?
I do, yeah.
And was that a hard step? Because a lot of people think I've got enough friends and family. I
Right.
don't need to go.
Yeah, but you got to do work on yourself. You know, work is work. You know what I mean? And it's not talking to yourself in the bathroom. You know what I mean? It's like doing stuff. You know what I mean? Doing exercises, finding out what's really wrong, digging down into the gooey, messy stuff and clearing it out. And you know, and you have to do that. You have to do that. You have to face yourself sometimes and go, okay, seriously. Everything's not going perfect. What are you doing?
Right. How can I fix it?
What are you doing wrong? Me. Not you, me. And because if you're not feeling good, if you keep getting a feeling that doesn't feel right in anything, in any part of your life, the only thing you can change is yourself. You can't change other people. They have to want to change. They have to get to that point on their own. You have to change yourself. You have to go, if I don't like feeling this way, what am I doing that's contributing to this feeling?
You're right.
And that's what I need to change. And that's what I've, again, learned in the past few years, that it's all in my hands.
There is an act, the next one, which we're almost at the end, is called Que Hiciste?
Yes.
Que Hiciste?
Que hiciste?
What does that mean?
It means, what did you do?
What did you do?
What did you do?
And there's like a powerful, you have powerful stuff on stage when it comes to this,
And
don't
it's
you?
funny because in Funky Love, you know, I love funk music and I love like, you know, getting up there and doing the hold it, don't drop it's and all that kind of like, you know, stuff like that, the Latin, the funk and all that. But this part, Que Hiciste, was more of a dramatic part of the show. And we like fused hip hop and tango in the choreography because they're both very intense types of dance. And it was about relationships. In relationships, they're not healthy. And we had a man and a woman and a woman and a man. In each one of the other person was wrong. One, the woman was wrong, and one, the man was wrong. And it was just about that. It was about walking away from something that is not healthy.
This got a lot of pickup too.
What was that? Which
This one right here. Okay, this is interesting. But we do talk about abuse. And you say, I've never gotten a black eye or a busted lip, but I've been in relationships where I've felt abused in one way or another, mentally, emotionally, verbally. I know what it feels like for your soul to be diminished by the way your loved one is treating you. Maybe it's a push or a shove or a nasty word that stays with you. The scars might not be visible, but they run just as deep.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yep.
I mean, you know, we always think of domestic violence and abuse in that way in black eyes, but sometimes the emotional or psychological abuse or somebody just kind of putting you down all the time or telling you all the things that you're doing wrong all the time instead of the things you're doing right. You know, relationships should be nourishing and supporting. It has to nourish and support you. If it's not that, it's not healthy. And you have to do that for each other. That's a healthy relationship. And I think so many times, so many of us are in relationships where we suffer that and we don't say anything and we kind of just let it wound our soul, or we go, oh, that's how we are. No, that's not how you should be. No. It's not how it should be.
And sometimes it starts off as a little thing.
Sure.
And then once you take it the first time, then it's worse and
worse.
And worse.
And that's what I'm learning now. That's where I'm at in my life now, like boundaries. You know, like setting boundaries of what is comfortable for me and what's uncomfortable for me, what I like and what I don't like, which again, when you're not totally in touch with yourself and the love inside of you and being your own keeper, you can do that. You'll let something slip by, you know what I mean, and be like, oh, we're having a fight right now. It's like, you know what, I don't like that. Please don't do that to me. And if you're gonna do that, you can go do it to somebody else.
How did you know, how were you sure it was time to end it with Mark?
It was so many things. It wasn't an overnight thing.
It wasn't one thing.
It wasn't an overnight thing. There wasn't one thing that happened. It was a slow realization. And we worked very hard on our marriage. We really did. Neither one of us wanted it to end. But at the end of the day, again, and I would never divulge any details about our really private, intimate life, it just didn't.
Sure.
It just didn't work out.
Were you just cringing about what the papers were going to say in the tabloids?
God,
Were
yes.
you like, oh my gosh, that must have been way heavy on you.
There was levels when I just, when I made the decision. I was like, okay, it's not gonna work. It was first getting to the decision of like, okay, this is happening. He and I are not working. Oh God, what about the kids? That was a hard hurdle to get over. Is it better for them? Is it not better for them? Do I just brave it out? What do I do? What do I do? What do I do? Then there was that hurdle, and I was like, no, this is gonna be better for them too. And then it was, oh God, now we have to make the announcement. Now everybody's gonna know about it. Now they're really gonna get on us. Oh God, we didn't do it. We didn't do it. We thought we were gonna do it, and we didn't do it. And, and it's all of that, and it's just, and now we gotta tell our families. It's just like there's so many stages that I needed to get by, and then once it was all done, then it was just like living with it, which everybody knows how difficult that could be.
Right. Did the tour was that just such a healing element for you, Jen?
Yes.
Yeah.
It kind of was. I didn't expect it to be. Sometimes subconsciously we do things that are going to help. Thank you.
Thank you.
That are going to help, and we don't know. But kind of like our soul guides us, and to a certain direction. And my soul guided me into that direction. Or maybe my fans did. Thank you.
If your kids said to you, Mom, I want to go into showbiz, would you give them a thumbs up, or would that be a thumbs down?
Here's what I know about artists. There's no way to stop them.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So at the end of the day, I'll be able to tell if they're artists or if they're just doing it for, like, oh, I want to do this, I want to be famous. I'll be like, no. You're not doing that. Or if they have a real, passion for music or writing or performing or singing or dancing or art or whatever, or painting or whatever kind of artist they would want to be, because none of those are easy lives. And everybody doesn't get as lucky as I have been, you know what I mean? So I would want them to at least love their life, which means that they would have to love what they're doing. It would have to be their passion, and I would, of course, 100% support them and give them all of the knowledge that I have and could help them with if that was true.
Okay, we've got questions from you guys, so I'm going to read them. From the Huffington Post, Ariel Grover, do you consider yourself a feminist?
A feminist? No, I guess in a sense.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't know. I don't like getting into all those terms.
Labels.
I don't like labels or boxes. I don't know if you've noticed. You know what I mean? I like to just be me.
Okay.
And, I have my ideas and thoughts about things, and I believe in equality and all that stuff, of course. But yeah, I'm not into labels much.
All right. This one says, many entertainers spend years practicing and perfecting their craft, waiting for an opportunity. What do you consider your big break that kind of launched your career?
There was many different moments. Many different moments. Selena was a big moment, but also, I wouldn't say that launched my career. I would say that gave me a high profile at that time. It was a good movie. It was a good role for me. It was like amazing. But there was different moments. This is like getting my first job in television was a big moment for me, and really got me known throughout the industry.
What was the first job in TV?
My first job in TV was a small part I did in a TV show called South Central, and I had a small part in it. But from that part, the studio and the network both offered me a development deal.
Wow.
Okay? And from there, so to me, that was like a big moment. You know what I mean? Because now I had a development deal, and then they put me in another series. And then from there, I did another series. And then from there, I got my first movie, which was Mi Familia, which is what I think really launched my career, because that director wound up putting me in Selena.
Wow.
So everything kind of like had building blocks, and then, of course, another big moment in my career is when after Selena, during Selena, when I decided I was going to pursue music and make my first album. And I got a record deal, and I went from there.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Another one from the Huffington Post. If you hadn't become a musician, dancer, and actor, what else could you see yourself doing?
I guess a lot of things, But definitely in the creative vein, you know, whether it be in designing or clothes or being in fashion is a big part of my life. I don't know. You know, definitely something in fashion or in the entertainment industry, you know, something creative for sure.
There are a lot of things I think young girls reading your book are going to learn. One of them that struck me was when you were, there was a setting where you were talking to your agent, your phone rings, it's your boyfriend, you take the call outside of a glass, and your agent is watching you speak to your boyfriend, and you're pleading or arguing or something, and your agent says to you when you came back in, oh, you know, do you have self-esteem issues?
Yeah.
And you thought to yourself,
crazy.
Nuts. Hello.
Crazy agent. Yeah.
But what did you?
But she was so right. Yeah, but listen, I hadn't even was thinking about things like that.
Right.
I'm like, what are you talking about? Like in the Bronx, we don't talk about stuff like that. So I was out in Hollywood and doing this, and I'm like, oh, these Hollywood people. they're gonna want me to get a therapist. You know, like we don't do that. So it was, you know, for me, just the beginning. I was like, again, like thinking back on it now, I go, wow, she was seeing a pattern in me that I wasn't even really ready to even recognize yet.
Well, because you had it together. I mean, you had an agent, for God's sake.
Well, I was in Hollywood. I had an agent, and I was working constantly, and I was doing great. I had an assistant, you know what I mean? I was like, I had made it. So it was, I wasn't ready at that moment to really look at myself, I don't think. I was just trying to survive the hamster wheel of being in this business and your career kind of taking off. I was just trying to make it through and keep up.
One of the things I love about you is that the people you surround yourself with, and some of them they work for you, but they're friends.
Yeah.
Like you have people in your inner circle who you're very, very close to. And
they become your family. Yeah. You know that. You know that. Assistants or even your hair and makeup people,
or
Benny, right? Benny, you know, he's like my family. It's not a choice for us anymore. It was at a time, and then we even had a time where we didn't work together for a little while, and then we came back together, and that almost reinforced the fact that it was more than just work. It's a family. It's something else. There's more than just a business relationship there. There's a love there. And all these people. There's Anna. Anna's right there. She's here tonight. She did all the pictures in the book.
Oh, yeah. Oh, there's
she did every single picture in the book.
Beautiful.
There's my hairdresser. There's Debbie. There's Tiana. Debbie's my assistant for 15 years. Tiana right over there.
Who's
my other
her
cousin.
face in the back?
There's Mary covering her face. She's my makeup artist. You know, every single one of them, you know, works with me and is part of my family as well.
And you must trust implicitly.
I do.
Okay,
I do.
so you wrote this book when, a year ago? When was it? Okay, so a lot's happened in a year, I guess.
Oh, yeah.
Are you still single? Are you still enjoying that life?
I'm single.
Yeah.
I am totally single. And that's a choice.
That's a choice.
And that's a choice, which is different for me, because you can be single because, you know, oh, nobody showed up yet. But that's not why I'm single, okay? I chose this. And I chose it because I felt like for the first time in my life, I needed to be on my own, by myself, working on myself. And I thought that that was gonna be the best thing I could do for me as a person, for me as a woman, for me as a mother. It was to learn how to be on my own and be happy on my own. Not wait for somebody else to bring me my happiness, but to be happy on my own, yes. So that's the journey I've been on, even since I finished this book, you know what I mean? Like, okay, and that's where I'd been headed for a while, I realized. And so that's what I'm doing right now, you know, and just for a while. It's not gonna be forever, you know. it's, you know, eventually, you know, hopefully somebody great comes along, but I will be whole first, and that's the plan.
Okay, that's awesome. I think we have a couple more questions.
Okay.
Okay. What's the one thing you want Max and Emmy to know about love? This is from Taylor via Twitter. I wonder if it's Taylor Swift.
That's
You never know.
It could be Taylor Swift.
You know it might be.
She's a cutie. I think that it's inside you.
Yeah.
again, it's not something, again, the message of the book, it's like, it's something that is inside you and lives inside you. You can't get it from anybody else.
Right.
They can share some of their love with you, but you have to have the love for yourself first.
Mm-hmm. And the saddest times that you went through, who's like your 2 a.m. phone call? When you were feeling really blue and bummed out,
Right.
who's the first person you call without thinking about it?
It's different people.
Is it?
It's, you know, I'm lucky because I could call my mom at that moment. I can call my dad at that moment. I could call Leah. I could call Benny. I can call Elaine, my producing partner, who's also one of my best friends. I could call Anna. I could call Linda, my sister. You know, I can call any of them.
You have a lot.
I have and you don't know. I didn't know I had an amazing support system like that until
You needed it.
the family fell apart, until my family fell apart. And all of them came out of the damn woodwork. And they were in my house every single day. And I was trudging around, crying and looking a mess and barefoot in sweats and wondering how I was going to make it through the day. And one of them just be sitting there next to me. You know what I mean?
That's
just going through it with me. And it was awesome. And it made me realize, again, how lucky I was. I didn't need somebody else to make me happy. I have a full life, an amazing life with amazing people in it. Yeah, so lucky, so fortunate.
You know, I thought I couldn't love her anymore. Seriously, are you guys so in? Couple more questions,
Thank you, babe.
and then well, we're going to call this one great night.
Okay.
Kelly from Twitter asks, what are you afraid of?
Oh, gosh. I would have answered a while ago of being alone, but I'm conquering that fear every single day, every night. I sleep in my bed alone. So that wouldn't be it anymore. But I don't know. I guess the thing that terrifies me most is that I want my kids to be okay. You know what I mean? Like, I just want them to be happy, healthy. I don't want to, like, I have a lot of jobs and I have a lot of things. That's the one job I don't want to mess up.
Right.
Like, that's the thing. Like, that job, we want to get that one right. That's probably my biggest fear or worry ever.
Do they go with you when you travel?
Yeah, they're here now.
Oh, they are?
Yes, yes.
Wow. And
Yeah.
how does that work? Because isn't that you're working and isn't it kind
I'm
of hard?
working,
Yeah.
they're in school, they're in a school where we get the curriculum when they're in school,
Okay.
you know, and they go back and they fall right back into class. You know, we'll go back Friday, they'll be in school Monday, they were in school Monday, you know, they go out for Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, then they go, you know what I mean? It's like,
Sure.
they know the nature of my business and what I do, and
Do they know that you're a hot shot? Do they get that?
they're starting to realize that something is different than other moms at the school. You know, like they're like, Max and Emmy came to me the other day and they were like, our Spanish teacher loves you. She's your biggest fan. And I was like, what does that mean? Because I wanted to know if they knew what I mean. They were like, she really likes you. I was like, okay. So it's starting to come into there. They're 6.
It sounds like you're trying to keep a relatively normal life for them. How hard is that, given that they can have everything?
Well, they are very privileged.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, they've traveled the world at 4 years old.
Right.
Okay, when we went on this world tour, they say things like I said, you know, like, Mommy, when are we going back to Singapore? When are we going to Istanbul? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
They're not the normal, like how I grew up in the Bronx. It's
right.
different. But yes, I still want them to see me, you know, they learn from what you do. They see me work hard. I want them to know you work hard. I think it's important for them to see me be charitable. I think it's important for them to see me be kind to the people who I work with. You know what I mean? They learn from you. And I try to kind of always let them know, like, pick that up. Yeah. You know, like my mom used to say, I'm not the slave around here. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. You know, nobody's your slave. Pick it up, you know, put it in the garbage. Take your plate to the sink. You know, I try to keep them, you know, give them their own sense of responsibility.
And you say show them, don't tell them. I mean, that's part of it. They have to watch.
Yeah, they have to see me take my plate to the sink, too. Yeah.
Do you do that?
I occasionally, just to show them. Just to show them. To show them that I do it, too, sometimes.
All right, let's end on a couple of things. You are crazy.
I'm crazy? I'm still thinking about the cop.
Yeah. Right?
That was the best story of the night.
He was it. All right, favorite song, you got to tell us. Your favorite
My
song.
favorite song ever in life?
Yes.
There's too many. I mean, I just love music.
Viviana wants to know.
Viviana, damn. I would, what? Of my songs? Oh, that's hard. That's hard too. My favorite song of my songs. Brave, Secret. Yeah.
Look at every.
I mean, I like all those. I like all the. My favorite song of my. Danny, that's a good one. I'm trying. I know this could go on for a long time. Which one? No.
What?
Right. Same Girl's a great one. Booty. That's your favorite. That's your favorite.
That's our favorite.
That's our favorite.
J-Lo came to our show.
I debuted my little teaser.
Yeah, you debuted that video.
Remember when Matt Lauer came running out?
Matt walked down. His mouth was on the floor.
He's like, did we just show that on morning TV?
And then, you know what he said after that?
No.
He said to me, that's my screensaver.
No!
I said, yes, it is. You guys, this has been so
Thank you
much
so much.
fun. A big